think that's everyone joined now, so we can make a start. So thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to take a look at the HikCentral ANPR solution with some of the parking management features and also the access control side of things, how you can actually link up the ANPR system to open and lock doors. You can actually set a building to lock all the doors using the ANPR cameras as well through the HikCentral solution. My name's Nathan Garner. I'm the project manager and one of the tech support team leaders here at Dynamic CCTV. We're going to be going through a few slides to begin with, kind of giving you a background and some theory of the solutions, and then we'll move on to the actual HikCentral side of things. And I've also got some ANPR cameras and access controller set up with me that we can go through as well through the HikCentral side of things. So what is the HikCentral software? Hikvision's licensed VMS software that allows you essentially control of your Hikvision devices. This can be on the same site or remote to your site. It has advanced alarm and event handling solutions, so you can trigger devices using events from other devices. You can even have events and secondary events on other systems to help with false alarm filtering. There's quite a lot of different solutions that you can actually do with HikCentral, and it is a scalable solution, so it can start small with only 1 or 2 ANPR cameras, and it can be scalable up to 3,000 camera systems and even larger using some of the distributed solutions and the remote site solutions as well from HikCentral. The main benefits when using HikCentral, the ability to have multiple users and clients streaming cameras on site and remotely, and it also does full audit login as a system through HikCentral, so you can see exactly what each individual user's done, even if they've digitally zoomed a camera, footage they've exported. All that is actually logged within HikCentral, and it is a fully customizable solution. So if you do need customizations where HikCentral doesn't quite meet the needs on a specific project, we can look at having the software customized to meet your needs for the actual system. And it does integrate with third-party solutions as well and different hardware technologies which are available using the Optimus middleware software, so you can bring third-party connections through there. There's also a wide variety of different modules that you can use with HikCentral. Today we're specifically looking at ANPR and access control, but there are many others which we have covered in previous webinars as well, and some more that will be covered in upcoming webinars over the next few weeks. So this is just taking a quick look over the actual full topology when you're using access control and the parking management solution with HikCentral. So you can have an access controller or even an intercom door station at the barrier with your ANPR camera and also an LED digital screen which can display a welcome message, can display the actual vehicle number plate, the time they've entered, the time they've left, and can be managed through the HikCentral parking management solution. The benefits of using the access controller or the intercom with it is if a vehicle's not known, they can actually use the intercom to call through to the control clients on HikCentral, and then an operator can manually open the barrier, or they can just get a pop-up when a vehicle approaches the barrier that isn't known to the actual system, and they can manually open the barrier or close it if needs be as well. That's just a broad kind of topology of the system, but we're going to go through the ANPR and parking management side of things first, and then we're going to go on to the access control slides as well. So with the barrier controls, when using the parking management, you can set a few different options for the barrier. So you can have the access controller open the barrier, intercom door station unit, or the actual ANPR camera itself using the alarm outputs from the camera. So these can be automated rules, so the barrier automatically opens if the vehicle's on the plate lists or it's like an allowed vehicle, or it can be set into manual mode, and this is where an operator through the control client, if for example they're in a gatehouse, they'd get a picture of the license plate and they can then have the option to manually open the barrier if there's that need for additional security on site. They can also be remote, don't actually have to be where the ANPR cameras are located or the barrier, because the HikCentral software is going to be managing all that side of things through there. With the LED displays, so these are network displays that are added into HikCentral that are available. There's also a specific one from Hikvision that's available, which can be directly added into the system. So this can be configured to display the number of available parking spaces in the car park, the actual license plate number, it's just red, the entry and exit time, the expiration date, or you can predefine what you want the actual sign to display with your own message that you want to display, which you can actually type in the text on screen, and that would display when a plate's detected by the camera. HikCentral will tell it what to display on the digital sign. With the standard ANPR cameras, you can only have a allow list and a block list, and then triggers off others that aren't on either of those lists. With HikCentral, you can have multiple vehicle lists linked to a single ANPR camera if you needed it to. So you could have a visitors list, an allowed list, and a block list. And then any other vehicles you could have that aren't matched on any of those lists, you can trigger an email or a pop-up on the HikCentral control client for your operators, so that can be dealt with as accordingly. With that, with HikCentral solution, it's also a lot more easily added for the actual license plate themselves. So if anyone's done the standard ANPR cameras, you'll know that you have to export an Excel file, enter your plates, and then re-upload that file to the camera or recorder, which if you're having a site where they're updating plates regularly, or they want to be able to have auto expiry on the vehicle plates, it's a much easier solution to do it through HikCentral. You can simply log into the web front end of the HikCentral server, click on the list that you want to add a vehicle to, and just enter the vehicle information, the license plate, and add that straight into that plate list, which is a lot easier and a lot more nicer solution than having to import and export Excel files each time you want to update your plate lists. It's something that we're finding a lot more popular now that people are starting to realise just how quickly and easier it is to use HikCentral, and the cost benefits outweigh the time spent on someone manually doing it with an Excel sheet for that. So with HikCentral, on the actual control client itself, you can have the real-time ANPR results displayed. So they actually overlay on the specific ANPR camera that you're viewing. So you can see that one on the left there. I just triggered it with our model car, which is detected on the actual camera, and it's actually given us the real-time read of that specific camera on there. You can also have multiple control clients viewing the same ANPR camera or cameras at the same time, and all can be receiving the real-time events through from the ANPR camera, whether that be real-time ANPR results or specific events that you have configured through HikCentral. So it's a lot more easily manageable when you have multiple users or multiple operators that need an access to the system, and it also gives you full audit login, so you can search back on those ANPR results as well for those. When a plate's detected on HikCentral, you can actually, from the real-time result, you can add it into one of your pre-existing vehicle lists on HikCentral, so you don't need to then manually go into the web client and type that number plate in. Through the HikCentral control client, you can highlight that number plate and add it to your relevant vehicle lists, which is nice and easy for operators to add new vehicles onto the system without having to then go into the back end to do that. And you can also view multiple ANPR cameras all at the same time on your control client and be able to see the actual real-time plate captures for each camera list overlaid on the camera image, and they're all joined together at the actual bottom of there as well. So with the vehicle search on the HikCentral control client, you can search for vehicles that have been detected across multiple sites that are added in HikCentral. So these can be remote sites, be different ANPR cameras. If you have a suspicious vehicle, for example, that's been going to different sites and you want to see which sites it's been to and what times, you can enter in that number plate and select all the different cameras you want to search it on, and that will then search across your multiple sites and your multiple ANPR cameras, which you can see we've done on our one here. So we've searched both on the exit ANPR camera and on the entrance ANPR camera, and it's brought all those in. It will also give you the no plate results, so when if it hasn't been able to read the license plate, those will also show and the capture is still taken and saved to HikCentral. If, for example, someone's covered the license plate, camera knows that a vehicle's been there, so it can still be searchable. You still have something to refer to as a piece of evidence if needs be from HikCentral. If a vehicle has actually been added to a plate list, when you search through the actual vehicle search, you will get the owner information, so the actual owner's name, their phone number. So if, for example, an operator needed to contact them, they can have that information at hand and be able to contact that specific owner of the vehicle. And if for whatever reason a vehicle's been misread incorrectly, you can actually go in and manually correct that on the actual system through the control client. So operators can manually edit those if they have the specific permission on their user account for HikCentral. So that was just a bit of background on the ANPR, a bit of the theory. Just going to take a look now through the access control side of things. So this is based on the HikCentral solution with access control, not the IVMS 4200 solution. So this is the overall architecture for access control. So you've got your main HikCentral server. So this is what does your back-end control. So this will handle all your events, persons, all that will be saved there and pushed to your access controllers. Your PC client would be your control clients. That's what your operators would use, where you can also receive events through to. There's also a HikCentral mobile app for both Android and iOS, and that will actually allow you to, if you're using, for example, facial recognition, you can add new users to your access control groups through the mobile app on your phone, which makes it really versatile, especially for reception areas or anything like that. If you have visitors, you can link that system up using HikCentral as well for those. So this is the access control terminals. So these are the face recognition terminals. Can be used with turnstiles, or they can be wall mounted and used with, for example, magnetic locks. The way the persons are issued on your PC clients that are linked to HikCentral, you would log into the web front end of HikCentral, and you would need to have either a picture already of them or a camera connected, like a webcam, to the client PC. And what you can then do is when you go to add a person, you can actually take the picture on that PC and it will be pushed out to specific terminals that are linked to the access group that you configure on HikCentral. This can be across multiple remote sites. If, for example, it was a large company and each of their satellite sites were added back to HikCentral at their main headquarters, the HR, when a new employee is enrolled to the system, they can add them onto HikCentral, issue them a card, or if it's facial recognition only terminals, can use the face recognition by uploading a picture of the staff member to HikCentral. This can also be linked to Active Directory. So if you have users added to Active Directory and configured, HikCentral can pull in that information. It will also pull in their pictures if you've set them up as a user with pictures on the Active Directory. Those can be pulled into HikCentral as well for that. So it's a really powerful solution when using it with access control, and when you're dealing with multiple members of staff or multiple users, it makes it much easier to manage all of them in one central location and push that out across multiple terminals or multiple access controllers with doors linked to them, which makes it nice and easy to manage those large systems with this solution. So for the solution overview, so you'd have your HR manager that would do the issuing of cards, the access configuration, central management of the persons that are going to be added into HikCentral. Staff can have multiple authentication modes, so different access groups can be added into. For example, an area manager could have access rights to be able to enter any of the different company locations within their area, whereas a normal staff member at a specific location can only access doors within their building through HikCentral. So it can be managed per user individually. They can be pushed across multiple access groups and attendance groups as well, because you can tie in attendance through HikCentral as well. And this will allow you to have up to 50,000 persons and up to 250,000 cards with 512 access points, which on the later versions of HikCentral that has increased now as well, so you can have even larger systems now. So the basic configuration of the system on the initial setup would be adding your access controls into the system, creating your access groups, and then those are then, when you add persons, they are then assigned to specific access groups. If you're using the attendance solution through HikCentral, you can also assign specific users to different access groups, which can then roll into HR systems and generate automated reports, HR managers and also line managers, so they can see if anyone's late, what overtime they've done, or anything like that can be fully managed through HikCentral. It doesn't need to just be an access control system. It can also be used for attendance as well through HikCentral. So when registering personnel into HikCentral, you can use a USB card reader. If you're using the fingerprint scanners, there's a USB version of those, and a webcam for facial recognition when you're uploading the person's face picture to HikCentral. They're registered onto the web client. This can be done on any PC that can basically log into the web front end of the server. This can even be done remote to the actual physical HikCentral server. You don't need to be on the same site, which is really important, especially with more of us working from home now. This is a great kind of solution for HR managers to be able to remotely manage the actual system, to be able to add and remove persons from the system on the fly. So it makes it a much more easier system to manage. And you can also generate multiple different reports from this, and those can be automatically emailed, or they can be manually created and exported through HikCentral as well for those. So lots of different companies with HR, they'll have different payroll systems. They're usually based on SQL. Now with the HikCentral system, it has a data interchange function. So you can actually link up the database with an SQL backend database, which you can speak to us here at Dynamic CCTV for support on how you can set this up and whether or not it's compatible with your specific systems. For more complex systems, or where there isn't the full integration there yet, you can export CSV files from HikCentral, which can then be uploaded to different third-party systems, such as Sage Payroll. You can import CSV files from HikCentral into Sage Payroll from a report that's been generated from the system using the attendance solution through HikCentral. When setting up multiple access controllers or multiple doors, generally there's a lot of times taken spent checking if a specific user's got the correct credentials to access specific doors. With HikCentral, there's been a new tool brought in where when you add a new person to the system, you can check which doors they can actually access and their device settings through the access control tool on the web client of HikCentral. So it makes it a lot easier not having to go around and check to make sure the person can access all the different doors. HikCentral can actually show you which doors they'll be able to open based on the permissions or access group that you have added them to on the system. And it's also the same with the access points. If you add a new door onto the system, you can check that through this tool as well. So it makes it a lot easier for engineers on site and can take a lot less time spent on setting up the system from there. So with the control clients themselves on HikCentral, for the monitoring section, we have your standard live view and playback areas. When specifically using access control, you can actually go into a specific non-video control interface for the access control. So you can see all the different doors that are added into HikCentral and their current status and whether or not they're locked or unlocked. And you can see that enter door there, that has been set to remain open. So that's the main entrance door. So anyone can walk through that door there into the system. And you can also see the real-time events from HikCentral on the actual control client. As long as it's logged in, it will give you a real-time event list from the access control system. So with ANPR and access control, when you're using HikCentral, you can actually link both systems together. So if you add a new vehicle to a plate list, you can assign that to a person on HikCentral. So you can see there, I've gone into add a new vehicle and I can assign myself as the vehicle owner within HikCentral, which will link up the two systems. You can also then configure the ANPR camera to lock and or unlock specific doors in a building. If, for example, you had a manager that opened up the building on a morning, you could have it configured so that when they drive through the ANPR camera, that automatically unlocks all the internal doors within the building when they drive in on a morning. You could then have it configured so when they leave the car park on a night, all the internal doors are then locked automatically through HikCentral based on their plate being detected by the ANPR camera. So there's quite a few different things you can do with this. It's quite kind of cool on what you can actually do with the system and different ways that it can be utilized on different sites. So with the HikCentral solution on large scale systems, it is required for the HikCentral backend server software to be ran on its own specific hardware. So we have our HC web server that we've had custom built that will run the HikCentral backend, and then your control clients or your operators would then connect to this server, and this would be your backend management solution. So this would manage all your different sites for the system, and this will also come with full support from ourselves and our partner SQL Logic as well for the hardware. We also do different control client PCs. So this is our medium workstation. So these are your kind of medium scale sites, and these can stream up to 33 channels at 720p. Generally, when you're viewing cameras in split screen, they're running in substream, so you can actually view a lot more than this on the control clients. And this one gives 3 monitor outputs, and they're specifically designed to run continuously 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and there is full 3-year hardware support on these as well. And then we've also got our high-end workstation. So this has a more powerful graphics card built into the unit, and this one can give you 4 monitor outputs from a single workstation and up to 45 channels at 720p, but in reality those numbers are actually a lot higher on what it can actually decode on our workstations for them. So what I'll do now is I'll move on to the actual HikCentral itself. So I'll just bring up the web front end of our HikCentral server that I've got set up on my laptop today. So I'll bring this across now. So this is the web login for HikCentral, which is set up currently on my laptop. So I can log in with my credentials here. So this is the home page for HikCentral. So this is where you do your backend configuration, your adding of your devices, configuring vehicle plate lists, configuring user permissions, anything like that on a configuration basis will be done through the HikCentral web client. The control client is what you'd use for your operators, where you'd actually view the system, receive any events, stuff like that would all be done through there. So what I can do is if I go into the physical view on our server, you can see there I've got 2 ANPR cameras already added. So I've got an entrance and I've got an exit ANPR. Before we show the parking management solution, I just wanted to show you the standard kind of ANPR config. So them 2 are added already into our HikCentral. What we can then do is go into vehicle. And you can see there, I've just got the default visitor list. I can go in and create my own vehicle list. So if I call this allowed list, and then click on add, and then I'm also going to create another list called the block list for this. So if I go into our allowed list, I can click on add. I can then input my license plate number. That. I can put in additional information, so whether or not it's a bus, container truck or anything like that. I can actually add this into the system. Just going to put that for other. I can put in the colour and also the brand. Our vehicle. I can then also enter in an effective period. So if, for example, you have a caravan park and guests register their vehicles, usually you'd send caravan park your license plate number. What you can do using HikCentral is the admin staff on site can add on the license plates when the booking's been made and have it effective from the date that they're supposed to check in until the date they check out. So that can be done through HikCentral, so that there's no need for anyone to manually remember to remove them from the system. So for example, we could have our number plate able to open the barrier from the 13th of November to the 16th of November, and then any time before this date or after this date, it wouldn't be able to open the actual barrier on site. If we're using the access control, we can click on persons list, but you can see I haven't created a person yet. But through this window, I can actually create a new person. So I can gender. I can also set whether or not I want it relating to a specific person group. There is also skin surface temperature. So this is when you're using the temperature screening solutions, whether it be through the facial recognition solution using the temperature screening cameras in the X model facial recognition recorder, or one of the MinMo terminals, which has access control, so it's added in as baseline now into the system. The face comparison, this is for the facial recognition using the X model DeepMind MVRs, and then we've also got the ability to assign our time and attendance, but we haven't got this configured at the moment, so I'm just adding myself as a user onto the system, and at the moment I haven't got a card number assigned to me. But I've actually created myself as a person for HikCentral, so I can add that on, and that's added me into the actual allowed list. I can also just enter in a different actual plate in there that was supposed to be 0. And then what we can do is just click on add there. So it's nice and easy and quick to add in new plates onto your plate list through HikCentral. So it's just through a web front end. You're not having to import and export Excel files. Once your plates are created, you obviously then need to configure it to trigger an alarm or the actual barrier itself. So what we can do is we can go into the event and alarm section and system monitored event, and we can click on add. If we go to parking lot, won't be configured yet. I will come on to this as I've activated our system, so I'll cover the event side of things once we've got our car park set up for the system, which I'll show now. So if we go back into vehicle, so these are our standard vehicle lists. We then have the ability to create a parking lot. This is if you want to use the parking management solution. So if we go to create parking lot, we can call this Dynamic Car Park. The number of entrance and exits, so this will be 2, and the capacity is the number of parking spaces that are available in the car park. So if we set this to 100. Free parking spaces, generally when you're setting up a system, there's already going to be vehicles parked somewhere in the car park, so you can manually adjust for this. So I'm going to put that there's 40 currently, and then we can put in the maximum duration in hours the vehicle's supposed to be parked in the system for, and this can automatically generate an event if they've entered the car park but they haven't exited within a certain time period. So we can say 7 hours on here, and also the expiration date for those, which we're going to set to 1. So you can see there we've actually created our car park, Dynamic CCTV car park, and we've got 40 currently free spaces, and our total capacity is 100 parking spaces that we've got. For the entry and exit rules, so this is the different rules that we can configure for the actual barriers. So if we go to click on add, we can create a normal rule. So we want the barrier to automatically open for entering and manually open on exiting. So the barrier won't open unless an operator manually opens through the control client. So we can configure that in there. For vehicles not in the lists, we can set them to only be manually open. So the barriers won't open unless an operator manually opens the actual barrier on the system. And then within our car park, what we now need to do is assign the actual entrance and exit cameras to the car park itself. So we can click on add, and this is going to be called Dynamic Entrance. And our capture unit's going to be the entrance ANPR. For this, and we can also link, if we have a display screen or one of the barriers to this, we can use an access control device or video intercom device. We can relate that in here, but we're just going to be using the capture unit, which is the physical ANPR camera, to trigger the barrier. You can also relate cameras to each individual lane. So if you have overview cameras, all those can be linked to the ANPR camera. So when a vehicle's detected, it can take a capture from up to 3 different cameras each time that vehicle's detected by the actual camera. So if I add that one in, so that's our entrance camera created, and then I can click on add again, and this is going to be the exit. So there we've got our entrance and exit cameras configured on the actual web client. Now what we can do is go into our event and alarm section, go into add an event, and then go into parking lot. You can see the different lists that we've already created. So we had the default visitor list, and then we had the allowed list and block lists that we had set up on the system. So if I click on the allowed list, I can set the source to be the dynamic car park. So this is on from the 2 ANPR cameras that are added into the car park. We can then action this event. So each time a vehicle is detected that's registered on the allowed list, we can have a capture taken, and this can be from the actual ANPR cameras themselves or other cameras within the building or the car park itself. So you might have an overview camera looking at the actual entrance or exit. You can have that set to take a capture. We can also link an access point. So this is where it will tie in with the access control system. So if we link access point and click on add, you can see we've got 2 doors to choose from. So if we click on door 1, we can set it so that if no vehicle plate is detected, we can set it to unlock that door. And we can also, if we want to link any alarm outputs, trigger a 𝐂𝐸𝐳, send an email from this event as well. But we're just going to have it so it will unlock the door once a known vehicle plate is detected. So we can add that in there. But if, for example, we had a vehicle added to our blocked list, or we wanted the doors to lock in the car park when an unknown vehicle was detected, we can actually configure that as well. So if we go to add again, go to parking lot, and if we select mismatch event, so any vehicle that's not on the allowed list that's detected by the ANPR camera, we might want this to, for example, send an email, which we can configure a template for. We can trigger a 𝐂𝐸𝐳. Or for this example, we're going to link an access point. We're going to set it to be all access points in the building, and we're going to set these to lock. And so if they're unlocked at the time, all the doors that are added in HikCentral will automatically lock if an unknown plate is detected. This is the same if you have, for example, a person that's tried to get into the building in the past, or they tried to do some damage. You can have your doors lock if their vehicle's detected in the car park again. You can even have the alarms actually trigger through to your control client. So if we go into our alarm section here, we can go into add, select parking lot again. And this is where we can create our overstayed event. So when we put our times in earlier, we can select our dynamic car park. Our alarm recipients are each of the users that we have added to HikCentral. So this is each of our operators. We can have it trigger a pop-up window on their control client on there, and we can also have it displayed to a video wall if you've got a video wall configured through HikCentral. So we can add that in. So if a vehicle stays for longer than the predefined time period in the car park, you can have an automatic alarm generated from the system. And we can also go in and set up an alarm for the matched event and any vehicles that are detected on the block list. We want to notify our users, so we can select our pop-up window. We can capture picture, so we want to select the camera that we want to select the picture on. And we can also link this again with the specific access points, so we can put them into emergency operations. So we're going to select our second door, and we're going to set this to remain locked. So only users that have high enough authority to manually unlock the door, this door will remain locked unless they have specific priorities where they can override this depending on the user permissions on the person that's being configured to the door. So we can add that in there. So if a vehicle that that's on the block list is detected by the ANPR camera, it can put all the doors in lockdown mode, which will basically stop any person from being able to scan or fob into the system unless they've got the hierarchy to override that system, which is set per person on there for that. You can also see on this alarm section that we've got our actions displayed. So we've got our capture picture and our linked access point on there as well from there. When we're creating our access control side of things, what we need to do is set up our access levels first. So if we go into access level, for this we can create our access level for this. So this is the different access points, and we want to create an all-day template. So any person that's added into this access level will be able to put their code in, scan their face, or even scan their key fobs anytime during the day. If they're added into this, they'll be able to gain access to the building. Once that's set up, we can go into person, and you can see we've already got myself that I created earlier, but I couldn't assign it to an access group because there wasn't already one created. So I can click on myself there into the actual system, and you can see I can also link myself to income indoor stations if I wanted to as well from there. And this is also the access control and time and attendance, which we can go in. You can see the access levels created there for the dynamic webinar, which I just created. So if I click on and call group dynamic staff, and then click on add, and save that, and I can apply that to the door controller. So that's applied me as a user with my permissions to the door controller. Now I can go in and add in another user, select dynamic staff as the access group, and click on add for that. If we were using card readers, you can actually use a USB card reader or a fingerprint reader, and you can use that to actually scan in, which I haven't got one added to the system to my PC. What we can do is we can upload a picture. So we can take a picture, or we can upload one if we wanted to. So if we go on to my desktop, and I should have one in here. Yep. So I can upload myself to the actual person. When using facial recognition, you need to ensure that the person's face is within the outcrop of the grey outer area there, and you can zoom in, rotate the image if needed as well. So I can save that, and then I can save that as well and apply that out. So if I had a facial recognition terminal connected to my access controller or added into HikCentral, I can apply that out centrally. There's no need for me to be on site. I just need to have the person's picture or a USB card reader or USB fingerprint reader, and I can assign those into the system that way, which makes it a lot easier to set up lots and lots of users within the system as well. We can also set up attendance groups. So if we want to use HikCentral as an attendance system with the access control, we can set that up through there. It is a separate module, so there is an additional cost to use attendance with HikCentral, but with the access controller standalone, you can't set up attendance systems. You do need the HikCentral solution to be able to use the access controls for attendance. So I'm just going to create this group as normal attendance. The check-ins, so this is if you need the person to actually check in and out on the system for the access control, whether or not we want to enable the attendance group for overtime. So this can automatically form a HR of overtime. And then we also need to create a shift schedule. So this is just going to be default shift. Then I can set that up on the system. If if we wanted to set up overtime, we configure the overtime levels. So if it's time and a half, it could be the overtime level at 1.5 for the system. And you can also have HikCentral automatically calculate all the overtime each person's done and have that automatically send a report to HR with the amount of overtime they've actually done on the system. So I've got my default shift added into there. If I had a person group already created, I've got mine under all persons. So I can select all persons and click on add. And you can see there's 2 people in the persons group. So that's the test that I created with my display picture and also myself without the display picture. So from this, you can then go in and generate reports manually through the web client and the control client. With the attendance system and the access control, you can do an automated roll call. So if a fire alarm's triggered and it's wired into the access controller, that can be configured so it sends an automatic email to HR with the people that were a list of the people that were in the building at the time the fire alarm was triggered. For the system, you can also generate manual roll calls as well, and it will automatically show you which people are currently in the building and which people have actually left the building on the system. So now what I'll do is I'll just bring up our HikCentral control client and show some of the ANPR detections. So this is the HikCentral control client, and so this is the software that would be used by operators or anyone wanting to view the system. So if we go into monitoring, and you can see I've got our access controller there, which will give me the status of the door. If there was a camera related to this, you can actually stream the live view of the camera that's located where that door position is. If we load up our 2 ANPR cameras here, I'll be able to do. You can see that real-time detection come through there on the entrance camera. And you can see it's come through there on the exit camera as well. And it's also logged those records at the bottom of the control client. If I go into vehicle record, it'll also show the capture that was taken. And what I can do is, you can see there's a little paper icon with a plus icon. If I click on that, it'll then give me the option to add that into the vehicle lists that are already configured on HikCentral that we configured in the web front end. So I'm not having to go back in and manually add that in. I can just do that, click on the list that I want to add it to, which is the allowed list, and just click on add. So that vehicle is now added to the allowed list. That list can be applied to multiple cameras. Because I've added it to the actual plate list now on the control client, HikCentral will add that out to its system, and any cameras linked to that will trigger as they've been configured. And because I've set up the parking management with the parking management license on this, I can go into the entrance and exit section, which is specifically for the parking management. So I can click on the live view to view the entrance camera. And you can see in the top right hand corner, we've got the number of free parking spaces that are added into the system. And you can see there, it's come up, asked me whether or not I want to allow the vehicle in, which I can click on allow. And that's now counted down to 39 spaces. Now you can see it's detected the vehicle again. This can be automated, so you don't need to click on the allow, but I set it to manual barrier control, so the operator has to allow the vehicle in. And I can click on allow again, and the alarm output just triggered on the camera, and it's counted down to 38 free spaces. I then trigger the exit camera. Open the actual barrier, and that's removed the actual vehicle from there. On the exit for that. What we can also do through here is we can do a vehicle search. So we're just going to search for all the actual ANPR cameras. So we're selecting our car park cameras there, and we can click on search. Now what that will do is allow us to actually see the capture that was taken, what vehicle list they were detected on for it. And we can also see a small capture of the actual license plate itself, and we can actually manually go in and enter that, change that to what we think it should have been read as. If it was read incorrectly, I've just put space in mine just to change it, but it was read correctly by the camera. This demonstration, I just want to change that over. And that's edited that on the system now, and you can see there it's updated the information that's been logged by the system as well. So an operator can manually go in and change that if they needed to, or if they had the specific permissions to actually do that on the system for that. We can also generate an export report of the actual vehicles within the specific time frame that we want to search for, and we can actually export all the pictures of the vehicles that were captured with that Excel file for that, and then it downloads into our PC. I can click on open file, and it gives us an exported CSV file of the actual vehicle results. So it gives us a system that it was exported from, the export time, and the license plate number, the time it was captured, which camera it was captured on, vehicle type if it's entered in onto the control client. If you're using the TCM cameras, those have an algorithm to detect what colour and brand the vehicle is from the system, and it also gives you the direction that they were travelling in. With HikCentral, it will also link up the captures. So you can see there it's got a thumbnail column, and I can click on image there, and it's brought that image up from the actual capture plates. When you actually export the file, not only do you get a list of all the vehicles that are being detected by the cameras within your specific time frame, but also all the captures there as well, which can only be done through HikCentral with the ANPR and parking management solution from there. So that's it for our live demo today. What we can do now is go on to the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, you can email myself and the rest of the project team. My contact details are on screen there, as well as our project team group inbox. For all of your HikCentral questions, anything that you'd like to ask us about, please feel free to contact us there. I'll start making my way through the Q&As now. So Jason has asked if it's possible to interface face recognition, etc., into an existing access control system, for example, Paxton. So there is a way to actually link Paxton access control with the HikCentral solution. It's done by using a middleware piece of software from Hikvision called Optimus for that, which can link the two systems together and synchronize users per HikCentral and the actual Paxton access control system from Hikvision. Nigel has asked if you configure auto locking with ANPR trigger on leaving, will it alert any doors that do not lock for those? So in order for the HikCentral to know if a door hasn't locked, you would need to use monitored mag locks, those wired into the access controllers. And if the trigger's been set to lock all the doors and it hasn't been confirmed, the monitored mag lock, that can trigger an alarm through HikCentral. You can have it send an email, pop up on the control clients on PCs or your video wall, or even through to the HikCentral mobile app to specific users for those. Daniel has asked, can the door systems be linked to a fire system for automatic unlock during an alarm? So it is possible to wire fire alarm systems into the access controllers. There is a specific module within the Hikvision access controllers to take an alarm input from a fire alarm, and that will automatically open all the doors if the fire alarm has been triggered on the system for those. Are we able to register NFC cards on the system, for example, bank cards? So you would need to use blank cards. I wouldn't recommend using blank cards or anything like that. It's specific for those. You wouldn't use those on this kind of system for your authentication. If you have any more questions though, please feel free to contact myself or the rest of the project team. But thank you for joining me today. I hope you've all found it useful and informative. And if you have any questions, please feel free to speak to myself and the rest of the team or your Dynamic CCTV BDM. But thank you for joining me today. I hope you all take care, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you. Bye.